Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be having a look at a new Golduck card. Now, quite obviously, at this stage, our translation has come from the lovely David Hochmann over at limitlesstcg.com/translations. And this Golduck could actually be really quite fun indeed. So, starting off, we've got 110 HP on a stage 2. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not particularly great. It's not particularly inspiring. We are not particularly happy. Boo! It means something like Zoroark will run right through this. We don't like it. The retreat cost of 1 is alright. It means we can use something like a skateboard, which is alright. The weakness to grass is fine, because the most of the things that are going to KO you, like Dalmais, will just KO you without having a hit for weakness, to be honest. But being a water Pokemon rocks. You got Aqua Patch to accelerate energy. You've got Brooklet Hill. You've got Crash Awake to search out some of your stuff. You've got access to Quagsire to move the energy around. You're hitting weakness on Blacephalon, one of the very best Pokemon in the format at the moment. To be frank, ladies and gentlemen, being a water type is good, but what does it do? Well, according to David, the first attack for 1 water energy does 20 damage, and it's Amnesia. Now, we've seen Amnesia on a bunch of Pokemon in the past, but essentially, choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks. That Pokemon cannot use a chosen attack during your opponent's next turn. You can lock them out of a particular attack. And as we've seen on a couple of Pokemon that have got Amnesia in the past, it really depends on what Pokemon you're up against. So, if you're up against something like Tapu Bulu, for instance, this is really quite nice. Yeah, they can 2-hit KO you with Horn Attack. Yeah, they can get a 1-hit KO with Tapu Wilderness, but that's their GX attack. But Nature's Judgment isn't good. But then we see something like Rayquaza. It's only got 1 attack. Gutted. Blacephalon. Now, I suppose we've always got Bursting Burn and Confusion, but honestly, that's not a particularly good attack. It's not why we play it. You can lock them out of Mind Blown, which is, of course, the main attack that they're trying to use against something like a Naganadel. They've only got a single attack that they can actually go ahead and use. Most Zoroark decks aren't playing Darkness Energy, so you lock them out of Riotous Beating. To be perfectly blunt, there are a whole bunch of Pokemon around at the moment that only really have 1 viable attack, and that's awesome for Golduck. Now, yes, your opponent can switch using something like a Guzma, or a Titanizer, or even, stop me if you've heard this one before, a Switch, and yeah, they can retreat, and if a new Pokemon comes up, they're fine. Even if you say Guzma and then retreat into the same Pokemon, you still count it as a different Pokemon because it's been to the bench. Sure, you can get out the active, but that's not always the easiest thing to do. Against something like a Buzzwole, you can lock them out of Jet Punch, and they've either got to get another 2 energy on there or pay the retreat cost of 2 or grab something like a Guzma, which isn't always possible for these kind of Pokemon. Sure, sometimes, but the fact that they can't always do it is what's amazing and beautiful and hilarious here. 20 damage, I'm going to be honest with you, isn't doing that much. With a Choice Band and Weakness, you're 2-hit KOing something like a Blacephalon, which is nice, but generally speaking, this is a nice attack to buy yourself a little bit of time, to slow the game down, to hurt your opponent, to get a bit of damage on the field. It's not a game-winning attack, but it's an attack you can use to get some damage on the field and buy yourself some time to put yourself into a winning position. Second attack here I also like quite a lot as well. Free Colorless Energy, 90 damage. If your opponent has any water energy in play, you may deal damage to a benched Pokemon instead. Now, the real pain with Golduck here is that they've got to have water energy on the field. Now, to be clear, if we look at something like Rainbow Energy, and we pay specific attention to the wording of that card, then we can see this card provides every type of energy when in play. but only one at a time. So if your opponent's got a rainbow energy in play, you're golden. Or if your opponent's got a counter energy in play, you're golden. Or if your opponent's got a beast energy or a super boost energy, you are similarly golden. But what if they don't? Sure, maybe you're playing against a water deck, maybe you're playing something like a Glaceon, but there aren't many water decks around at the moment. They're not seeing a huge amount of play. Now, we did look yesterday at a Carp Lord deck, and I really hope that turns out to be good, and if it does, this will be great against them. Because also, right, against Magikarp and Werelord Tag Team GX, you can just turn off their first attack and be like, no, you can't attack. But then again, it's a Quagsire deck, so they're going to have some switching cards so that they can essentially switch and then move energy to their active. But it's still something that's fun to play around with here. This is really good if they've got water energy on. Sniping for 90, let's be clear about this, is awesome. We looked at Hitmonlee just the other day. I'll pop a link to that video in the description. And Hitmonlee was really nice because for a single energy on a basic, you could hit 90 damage to the bench. Surely there must have been a catch. There was. You must have used Hitmonchan hit and run attack the previous turn. So great in a Hitmonchan deck. Absolutely pointlessly rubbish in literally any other deck ever. And that's kind of like this one. Because if you're playing against a water deck or a deck playing one of these special energy, it's great. And look, don't sleep on how great Sniping for 90 is. Macargo is being played in a whole bunch of decks. That goes down. Malamar decks are quite big at the moment. They go down. If you're playing against an evolving deck, something like a Zorua will go down. But also something like a Curlier, which is a stage 1 that evolves, will go down. There are plenty of Pokemon you'll get here. And as for the energy cost, yeah, it's a little bit annoying. Yeah, you can use double colorless energy. But in a Quagsire deck, and you may well wish to use Naganadel to accelerate energy, this is really good. And I could see this being played in a Naganadel Quagsire deck, and they are getting more and more popular as time goes by, so that if you are against one of these decks, you can hit the bench. Because if you're against a Quagsire deck, they got 120 HP. Boo! And that's another point we need to make here. There are plenty of Pokemon that will not be KO'd by this. I really like the attack. And Sniping for 90 is awesome. And getting the energy between Aqua Patch, Naganadel, Quagsire, double colorless, really not that difficult. But the issue is you'll often only be doing 90 to the active, and 90 to the active for free energy is actually not particularly great. Now, before we finish, I do need to have a quick shout out to Psyduck here. Psyduck's got a really awesome attack, as long as redonkulous artwork. I'm trying to make a bigger point now to say when I find really great artwork, and I love the Psyduck's artwork. But 1 colorless energy, 10 damage, flip a coin, if heads, trainer lock. Your opponent cannot play trainer cards from their hand during their next turn. This is trainer cards, ladies and gentlemen. It ain't item cards. So obviously there's no items here, no Ultra Ball to go and search Pokemon or any of that. But also no supporter cards. So something like Cynthia, you can't play. No Stadium, so something like your opponent playing a Brooklet Hill. Or even a Shrine of Punishment if you're against a GX deck. That ain't gonna work. It's really fun. Now, it is on a coin flip. As always, you can play Victini to give yourself a 75% chance to hit a heads, rather than just accepting the regular 50% chance. And in a deck like Mimikyu and Gengar, where you do 50 damage for each trainer in their hand, this is awesome, if slightly risky. And it is risky, ladies and gentlemen. If you hit tails, you're not doing it, and then your opponent can go nuts. If you can get lucky with this and hit a couple of heads in something like a Mimikyu and Gengar deck, it really is a phenomenal card, and I could see it being played around with in cards like that. And we've all seen pre-evolution see a little bit of play and a little bit of love when they're good enough, even when people initially think, meh, little bit rubbish. Take the Larvitar from Lost Thunder, which has seen some play in some Japanese decks with Decidueye. Decidueye does damage, and Larvitar then takes advantage, because for just a double colorless energy, it does 80 damage if they've got 3 or more damage counters on them. I think this Psyduck could be a little bit fun, and I think it might even be better than the Golduck. I'm giving the Golduck 3 Wassies because it's a kind of card that you need to have in your deck. The kind of card which you might end up putting into a deck, you never know, so keep it in your binder because maybe one day it will be good. Although I do obviously need to mention here, in Expanded you can have Golduck Break, which has actually got a phenomenal ability which you don't need because of Quagsire, but it's there anyway, gosh darn it. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for you to tell me what you think about Golduck. So please do go nuts in the comment section, but do remember the most important rule as always. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays for some more Wassie action. But by far the most important thing as always is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.